In the Parshias regarding Yosef's life, specifically the Parshias of Mikeitz and Vayeshev and Mikeitz, the Torah engages in possibly the first recorded cliffhanger in history. The Torah until now has been recording all about Yosef's life, starting from his two dreams of ruling over his brothers and how things go downhill for him very quickly from there. His brothers kidnap him, sell him as a slave to Egypt. He ends up in Egyptian prison. And finally we learn that he correctly interpreted the dreams of the butler and the baker. He says that when he comes out of prison, if the butler could please ask Parah in his behalf to free him, he's innocent. And then the Parsha ends that the butler forgot about him. He did not remember, he forgot about him. End of the Parsha. And Torah leaves us on a weak cliffhanger until this week's Parsha. And we learn a new part of the story. Parah had dreams. He had two dreams. He didn't have an interpreter. The butler remembered from 2 years ago. There's a man named Yosef. They pulled him out of the pit, and all of a sudden he rises to become the viceroy of Egypt. He becomes free, becomes second in command to the world superpower. Now there's a lot to learn from this space that Torah gives between Parshas Vayeshev and Mikeitz. Why would Torah do it? What's the point of leaving us in such suspense? Yosef finally thinks he could become free. Nah, the butler forgot about him. And then a week later we wake up to hear how the story ended. And perhaps over here we could learn much from what Torah does not say, from this gap. The unsaid in between the end of Vayeshev and Mikeitz teaches us possibly one of life's most important lessons, which is that life consists of two parts. Part one is what we plan, how we engage life and how we plan on succeeding and how we want our lives to work out. And part two is how life ends up actually working out and what ends up actually happening. And most of the time there's a space in between. Both are holy, both are important. We're not just meant to sit back and wait for miracles to happen. We're meant to engage our lives ambitiously, try to succeed, use our talents for the service of Hashem and for success. But most of the time, success doesn't happen exactly the way we planned it. Our plan is plan A, and the way God makes it happen, Atzas Hashem Hisakum, is plan B, and we need to respect the space in between, because in that space exists our faith and our trust that He will make it work out. We need to know that when we're engaging ambitiously in what we want to do, we need to be ambitious, patient, and then wait for the results to happen. Results are in God's lap. Only He can make anything happen. The life Hashem gives us is His gift to us, and how we respond, how we engage that life is our gift to Him. And those are the two pieces of life. Vayeshev is Yosef finally takes a stand, trying to get his life in order. Speaks to the butler. Now that doesn't work out. There's now a gap. We sometimes plan on our life looking a certain way, our marriage looking a certain way, our family, our children, our business, and that's the end of Vayeshev. And then we see it doesn't work out as planned. And now we need to learn to respect and hold on to emunah and betachin in that space. And yes, I need to do my job to lean into life accordingly, to try to use my skills, to try to incorporate as much Yiddishkeit, as much of my strength, to respect and serve Hashem and live life based on the reality that He gave me, and then learn to trust that eventually, yes, things will work out in a good way, and I probably will not be able to figure out exactly how. That's a very important lesson to teach us how to have peace of mind while we're waiting for Vayeshev, the story of Vayeshev, to carry over to the story of Mikeitz. I heard a beautiful story, which is relevant to our times with the hostages in Israel. There's a soldier missing in action since 1982. His name was Zachariah Ba'almel. In a war in Lebanon, in Sultan Yaqub, the Jews were ambushed. Many of them were killed. Several survived, and there was a small group of people that were missing in action. No one heard what happened to them. For 37 years, I remember even as a kid, they were saying his name at the Torah, since I remember, for soldiers, the prayer for soldiers missing in action. In 2019, after 37 years, Russia located his body. He was killed. They located it based on his clothing and his tzitzis. And they brought him to Israel from Syria with a very emotional levaya. the family, after literally spending all that time, his parents were advocating with Bibi Netanyahu, with the world, trying to say, "Where is my son?" Trying to put pressure, and to keep him in the world spotlight throughout their lives, literally until the father died. They shared at the Shiva that 2 years before Bibi Netanyahu told the family that your son was located. He called them up, and we're going to bury him in Israel. And they went to Mr. Netanyahu, and they told him, by the way, you should know that for years we carried a big grudge against you, because you said you're going to help us, but nothing came of it. So we thought you're just giving politically correct talk, you're making us feel good. But we held a tremendous grudge against you. And we decided a few years ago that, you know what, you have a tough job, being the Prime Minister of Israel, with so many neighbors that want to kill you, and maybe there are more collective important things for the safety and security of the Yidden and the Jews in Israel. So we decided, you know what, we should judge you a bit more favorably and start speaking nicer about you and have better feeling towards you. At which point Bibi got very emotional, and he said, let me tell you this story that happened just around that time. Russia owed us a favor. We gave them special intelligence, and we had a security cabinet meeting regarding what favor we wanted to ask from Russia in return. And we boiled it down to 3 most important favors we would ask of Russia, one of 3, which they could help us regarding what is considered most important for Israel. At which point, I sit and meet with Vladimir Putin. He tells the family. And Vladimir Putin says, you guys did us a tremendous favor. What would you like in return? And I meant to tell him one of these 3 things. We just had a meeting about it. But I felt in my gut to ask to locate the body of Zachariah Ba'amo. And I was telling myself, I can't. I have many things more important for the country. But it kept coming to me. And at some point, it just came out of my mouth just to help locate Zachariah Ba'amo, if he's dead or alive, and to bring his body back. And Mr. Putin was taken aback. I said, we find every Jew, even after they're deceased, important. Mr. Putin said back, I will take this on. We have a good relationship with Syria, and they presumed the body was in Syria. But on top of that, you could ask one of those 3 favors too. And after 2 years of undercover, very secret operation from Russia, they did locate the body of Zachariah Ba'amo. And when they discussed the 2 dates of when these events happened, they found out that once the family decided that they're going to start viewing Mr. Netanyahu in a more positive light, that was when the story, his meeting of President Putin, was happening. In other words, we have the end of Parshas Vayeshev. Life gives us lemons sometimes, or we find ourselves in tough times, and our job is to try to make the most of that, to try to lean into it gracefully, Jewishly, and to try to make the most of what we've been given. At the same time, God's making his plans for how things will eventually work out well. And maybe there's going to be a space of 2 years, like we see from Yosef and Parai, like we see from the Ba'amo family and the Israeli government. But we need to be able to do what we need to do and engage life as it comes to us as well, wholeheartedly, gracefully, and ambitiously as possible, while at the same time being patient and respecting the fact that things will unfold on God's schedule, not on our schedule, and we know that he's a loving Father and he's going to take care of us. Have a great Shabbos.